All right, I'd like to welcome in now former FBI Special Agent and attorney Katherine Schweit. Katherine, thank you so much for your time on this. All right, so we just heard from Marcus, the beginnings of this investigation. And we just heard from Vanessa there in Las Vegas, kind of trying to dig in to who this suspect was. What is most important from your perspective at this point in the investigation?
I think what the investigators want to know and what the public wants to know sometimes are different, right? But the investigators want to just put together a timeline, figure out where he went, what he did, if there was any possibility that somebody could have intervened because they knew information, and we can learn from that. And then also to put all the information together for the survivors, the victims, the people who are impacted, so they really know for sure what happened. I think the public wants to know what happened, why did it happen, why couldn't he have been stopped? And that really goes to motive, which isn't actually a legal, criminal charge. But one of the things that I think we're gonna, of course, that's right out there is there's already been discussion about mental health and medications. And I think that really goes to when you buy a gun. There are background checks that are done in many states in many different ways, but mental health issues and concerns have to be reported in order for them to show up in a background check.
All right, yeah, so there are reports, we heard from Marcus there, that police have found, so the suspect double parked his car right in front of the building yesterday. So new reports, obviously, as police comb over that vehicle now, finding an additional loaded rifle magazine, a loaded revolver, headphones, some cell phones, some medication. What stands out to you most right now, Katherine, when it comes to the timeline as we know it at this point?
I think he made a decision that he was going to come to New York and go to this office and make this very public statement. And he jumped in his car and he drove as long and as far and as fast as he could. And I think we'll find as they piece it together that he pushed a lot of miles through every day to do that. People who've driven from east to west or west to east know what a grueling drive that can be, doing it by yourself, especially. But then look at what happens. He drives into town the very next day. He's just a few miles away. He drives in to Manhattan and double parks his car. Clearly no intent. I mean, this is, for me as a mass shooting expert, in my world, somebody who double parks their car in front of the building has no intent on returning. He walks directly with nobody looking at him carrying that military issued style semi-automatic weapon. He is intending to go to kill people, but also primarily to kill himself in a very public way. I think the people he killed along the way were he would consider probably just the casualties of war.
And Katherine, I do want to get your reaction to that image that we see that is so jarring, that is so disturbing of the suspect there as he is walking into that building, and he has that long gun by his right side. And as you said, I mean, in no way is he trying to conceal that weapon. I mean, I would imagine, for people who saw him, you almost maybe wouldn't think something was wrong, because who is just going to walk, into a building holding a gun and not at all try to conceal it? What does that tell you?
Yeah, I think that he was in a zone, so to speak, right? Which might have been why he ended up killing people, why he may have gotten on the wrong elevator if he did. But he was clearly in a zone. He's taking big, long strides, no attempt to look around to see his face is forward. He's very focused. He got out of the car and then he had a goal, and he probably tunnel visioned into the doorway of that building, and he never looked left or right. If there had been, some different type of security or people who interfered, somebody, who was driving by on a scooter and knocked him over, our results would have been different, right? And we've seen that recently in situations where people have car rammed somebody. We had just the other day, grocery carts going after the person who was stabbing people. So when you're in that zone, you don't really think about what's going on around you because you're very focused on your destination. But I think him killing himself in the hallway, at the end of the hallway, very promptly after that, as soon as he got up there, is kind of an indication that he didn't really think his plan beyond getting up there and doing the harm that he wanted to do, which he killed himself with a gunshot wound to his chest. He wanted to potentially have his brain saved for the
Wow.
research.
And Catherine, I mean, we know that hindsight is always 2020. You mentioned at the top, we're always looking for some type of answer, some type of explanation of something that really truly is unexplainable. So there is this reporting. We just heard from Vanessa there. We know that Tamura was employed at a Nevada casino, apparently worked in the surveillance department. Do you think that anything related to that type of job would potentially help him when it comes to this type of brutal attack?
I think he probably had some training, right, that would have come with it, even if it was just incidental with his security. But just kind of a regular security job when somebody gets hired, we hire people who are high school graduates, and we give them a vest and a T-shirt that says security, and we ask them to do certain things. We do that at concert halls, and we do that at buildings, and we pay them minimum wage. And so there's kind of a level of false sense of security that we have, but he certainly potentially could have picked up some skill sets for knowing, how to hold himself, that stature that you see in that image that's on the screen. But it's hard to say whether or not that really is reflective of who he was, because I think he was clearly trying to find out who he was, and he wasn't satisfied, and he was struggling from a mental health standpoint. And the people around him, here's they're reporting earlier, oh, there really wasn't, as she mentioned, there wasn't anything else out there that was going on. There really wasn't a big history of problems with him. Well, that is kind of the problem with a lot of these types of shooters. They don't have a background that we're going to see as an escalation like we do in some other types of criminal activity, some other types of mass killings, for instance, serial killers. These are individuals who maybe just get to a point and they start to build, and they build the concept of, I'm going to commit a violent act, and it's targeted. They plan to do it, and there's very little that can stop them.
Absolutely, yeah, and that truly just gave me chills there. All right, Katherine Schweit, thank you so much for your expertise.